Good evening, everyone. I'll call the Brandon Select Board to order for December 23rd. Thank you for attending. First item is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion on the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as prepared.
Is a motion?
Second.
And a second? I do have any modifications. I have two modifications. I'd like to propose that we switch item 9 and item 10, if there's no objection. And then the board did receive a letter dated today, so I would propose item 4A, consider BLSG board representative appointment.
And I have an addition to the agenda.
Okay?
The green fleet policy was going to be on this agenda. I missed it. So if we could put that maybe around 7A or B or something.
7A, green fleet. Any other changes to be made? If not, all in favor of the agenda as we've just amended it, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Item 2, approval of the board minutes and workshop minutes.
Make a motion to approve the select board for December 9th.
Ms. Coolidge moves to approve.
Second.
Mr. Bailey seconds. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes of December 9th?
There's a couple things that I just wanted to kind of confirm and maybe reword. On the second page of the minutes, when we're talking about the green fleet policy, it says in the third or fourth line down, the policy would not advocate replacement of vehicles and does not suggest greening the fleet. And actually, the policy does suggest greening the fleet. That's really what it's all about. And while it doesn't require replacement of vehicles, it does advocate for the replacement of vehicles. And I think that the part of the discussion that we talked about is that it doesn't require that. And maybe that's where it got into the notes. And then the second...
So that's on page 6 at the top?
That's right, page 6, on that fourth line. I would correct the line that says this policy would not advocate replacement of vehicles and does not suggest greening the fleet to this policy would advocate replacement of vehicles and does suggest greening the fleet.
Okay.
And then a little further down in that same paragraph, it said the emission data collection would require purchasing equipment. And I didn't think it would require purchasing equipment. And if that was what came out of that discussion. Is that true, Dave? Did you foresee that it requires purchasing equipment to get...
No, because the thing was we could get data from our sheets for fueling up and everything. But
Yes.
I wouldn't, as far as...
So I think that may have come up in conversation, but that wasn't the conclusion that was reached in that discussion. And I just didn't want it to linger on it.
So the
emission data collection would not require purchasing equipment.
That kind of makes sense with the following sentence there, right? That there are online tools
Exactly.
that can be used as calculators.
Yeah, I just didn't want the paper trail to be confusing someday when we look back.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anyone else have any items of concern? If not, all in favor of approval of the minutes as they've just been amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Item B, the budget workshop of December 10th.
I move that we adopt both budget workshop minutes as written.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve both budget workshop minutes, December 10th and 17th. All in favor, say aye.
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 I can't do that. You can if you want. I'll vote aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Mr. Coolidge abstains. Perfect. Item 3 is the town manager's report. Mr. Rapp.
Just my report for the week of December 9th and 16th. Segment 6, lampposts in the downtown area have been malfunctioning due to some computer issues. We have already discontinued the use of the computer to run the lamps, and they will be run by one photo sensor to turn them on and off when they're needed. We're still waiting for handrail to be delivered so it can be installed at various locations, and this is a safety issue, which is why we're able to still do it when we're shut down. We have been discussing some of the sidewalk areas that are chipping, and we'll hopefully have a resolve for that in the spring. The repair replacement, some of them are coming up apart quick like, so there's a few theories popping up on why that's happening. Other things going on, we're hoping to have the Church Road culvert out to bid the first of the year for spring-summer installation. The Sanderson Bridge has been repaired from truck damage again. And Sean and I, we've been meeting to discuss new signage and the possibility of adding some type of a camera in or around the bridge, so you can actually see these folks that are doing it. I did talk with Representative Shaw about this too, because we've been talking about trying to get a GPS bill for truck companies and things to not send them down these roads. So there's actually some state signs we can get from them as well that the state's going to send our way. So
Great.
And I've met with a couple contractors to get a quote to build a roof over the sidewalk out here on the side building. We've been discussing it forever, and so see what we come up with for that. Rec news: the Celtics trip is sold out in March. Brandon Idol registration is open. It's on the website. The Water Wrestling Program registration opens on the 30th. Wrestling will be in the Pillar Pilates building on Rossiter Street with coaches Babcock, Whitney, and Minor. Blueberry Hill Ski Club cross-country information meeting at Neshabie School on January 7th at 7 p.m. Brandon Rec and Brandon Free Public Library are partnering up for quiz night at Center Street Bar. You can visit brandonpubliclibrary.org to sign up for free. There's 6:30 every Sunday in January and February 9th and 16th. The open cornhole night at Brandon Town Hall is slated to commence on Wednesday, starting on January 15th, 7 to 9. And Brandon Rec will be offering an open ping pong night at the Town Hall starting January 13th at 6:30.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. Any questions for Mr. Atherton from the Select Board? Mr. Giles?
No.
Mr. Bailey?
Not a question, but just I would like to pass on congratulations for Bill Moore getting the $10,000 grant for the playground. That's a real nice thing you got. So you should be thanked.
Okay. Mr. Coolidge?
Nothing.
Any questions for the town manager from the public in attendance tonight? Anybody here with anything for the town manager? Okay, if not, we'll move along. Item 4 is public comment and participation. This would be an opportunity for anything that doesn't appear on the agenda. We'll start with the board. Mr. Coolidge?
Negative.
Mr. Bailey? Mr. Giles? And any member of the public tonight with anything that does not appear on the agenda that they'd like to discuss? Mr. Gilbert?
I noticed under the warrant, the liability insurance premium this time around. Is that inclusive of the payment that they've made because of the Darryl Burlett thing? Is it reflective of that? Did they make a payment?
So the town has made a claim, and the town has received the claim proceeds. I'll let Mr. Atherton answer. I would assume that our premium doesn't get adjusted till the next premium year.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the
It
current.
said first quarter. That's what I was wondering.
For our liability insurance through the league, yeah,
So we prepay a quarter at a time.
It's actually, yeah, in their calendar year, so we get our, right now we're getting our updates for that. I don't think it's going up actually. So,
So
So the town treasurer advises, no, it did not go up.
the payment was received, and the deductible was made like last October or something, I believe, so.
I think the deductible would have
$1,000.
happened.
Yeah.
Claim.
Yeah.
And is there anything else on the Darryl Burlett?
So, so the board desires to make a full and complete response to questions that you pose to us and that, we have of our own, concerns we have of our own. I will let the board tell me what to do, but I believe that we are still in the stage where the attorneys are working and that it would be beneficial to wait to make a statement other than, yes, we've received the claim. Yes, the attorneys continue to work with each other. If anyone else on the board thinks that there's more information to share at this time, that's okay.
Well, I guess from what I understand is that the attorneys are pretty much finished, so there isn't an ongoing thing that's happening here. And so really, that's the whole statement, that we received a claim, and
What was the
I
nature
guess
of the claim?
it's correct to say that the town's loss was claimed under the town's existing insurance. The town's loss was made whole by the insurance, and that the town's claim was subrogated to the insurance company. So the insurance company now is the one that has the opportunity to pursue recovery or whatever next steps would be.
What was the nature of the claim then? Fraud, theft?
We
what?
claimed fraud.
Fraud, okay. And the VLCT covered that as fraud. That doesn't require charges or
Evidently
something
not.
like that under the laws?
Evidently not. Yeah. So I would say that, you know, at this time, I'm aware that the town attorney continues to work with VLCT, our insurers, and that Mr. Bullett's attorney continues to work representing that side of the matter.
Well, an attorney's cost money, so
They
that's
do.
got to be adding up, because this is going on.
At this point, at the point that the claim was made, approximately, the town attorney began working and billing the league rather than the town. Does that make sense?
They began billing them when?
The VLCT.
Okay.
Approximately at the time that either the claim was subrogated or the claim was received by the town.
Okay. So what was the town's exposure on that, the attorney fees?
I would hesitate to
Answer that.
know right now, yeah.
Okay, so based on Mr. Giles' response, you feel that that's it? No other answers are relevant or?
this isn't winding up, it's definitely winding down.
Right.
The last drips and drabs we get out of the lawyer is the ending.
Okay. But what about the authorization and the payment that was, you know, somebody made that payment
And so what's your question?
to Mr. Burlett that was outside the warrant, and then it was put into a warrant and given to you folks as if it was
Yeah, we've made sure
legitimate.
that won't happen again, and we've dealt with the personnel matters, for procedures. So I'm confident that we won't have that problem again.
In what fashion did you deal with them? I see, those were all part of our questions, and they're really not being, I would have to go get my list of questions. I wasn't prepared to do that tonight, because I figured you all would.
Well, I don't have a lot more to say than that. I'm confident that we're aware of how it happened, and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen that way again.
Well, I feel there were two things that occurred. First, there was the payment that was made that was outside the authority. Then there was putting it into a warrant and actually submitting it to you folks. And I feel that was doubly inappropriate. When you make a mistake, you don't just kind of push it on. And if you folks hadn't been on the ball, who knows what would have happened then, so.
But we were on the ball.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Buell's questioning is, are we going to answer the individual questions at some point?
I will advise that the board took your questions seriously. We do take them seriously. And in fact, I drafted a proposed response, which the board has seen. This was weeks ago. This was very shortly after you presented your questions. The board has seen it, the board has considered it, and the advice, the legal advice that the board has received from the town attorney is that a public statement addressing those questions would be premature. And that's still what we're operating under.
Okay.
We also would like to have some finality to this, and we also would like to have the public understand the whole course of events. But the professional advice that we've secured is that it's not yet time.
Okay. And I would just say to Tim that it seems like the same people are still approving payments for projects going forward that were called. That might not be
Well, I
right.
don't think that that's accurate, Mr.
That-
Because
that
the
works.
authorization for that payment was made by an employee that's no longer employed by the town. So you cannot say that the same people are involved in the process because the key one is missing.
One of them, yes. Okay.
The one. The key one is
Okay,
missing.
but a check was written under an authority that was only given to the town manager.
So, you know what, Brett, you've gone on with this a lot of times to me in this meeting.
Yeah.
And you don't want to come right out and say it. I don't even have authority to spend any money over $10,000 per our procurement policy. This was something that was done by the prior municipal project manager to V-Trans. V-Trans did not honor the submittal, and that's why it came back to the select board. Because we were told that this was approved by the state. There was no doubt in anybody's mind that was involved with this, that that person was telling us something that wasn't accurate.
Yeah, the process.
That's the reality.
That person didn't have the authority to authorize a check to be written in that
And in
capacity.
fact, that person did.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Not from what I read in the minutes and all that, outside the warrants.
No, I would say the process worked, and that the people that needed to pay attention did in time to fix the problem.
I do anticipate that we will be asking, I mean, we ask our attorney regularly, when can we make a public statement? Will you have further information that you think we should disclose that we don't know about? I mean, we ask her regularly. I would anticipate I will be asking her again after this meeting. It's kind of just what we do after board meetings, just as a progress. And the progress has been very, very slow, not through her fault, but sometimes she takes an action that requires a response, and the response isn't prompt, not from us, but the response from other parties that are involved, and she has to make an additional attempt to get the information that she needs.
Okay. Well, it just raises more questions, because if the state authorized it, why didn't the state pay it? Why did the town have to declare an insurance loss? If the state approved it, the state should have.
They did not.
The state didn't approve it.
I do think.
A minute ago, someone said it was approved, and that's why the check was written.
We were told it was approved.
Okay.
It sounds to me like the board is giving every answer that they can actually legally give you on the advice of their attorney, and I don't think
Right.
that this is the place to try to litigate whatever additional
Until
concerns
later.
that you might have. that-
Until you can answer the actual questions, I guess. It's still in limbo.
I don't know that it's in limbo. I think that the town has been made whole for its financial loss, and that the board has laid out to the attorneys, to the attorney and to the insurer, the board's understanding of every step of the process. And we are waiting for the town attorney to advise that it will not jeopardize the recovery effort that our insurers are now undertaking to make a public statement. We don't want to make a public statement that will jeopardize the recovery effort of our insurers, is what I'm saying.
So it's still in limbo. Okay. So my next question is on the warrant. I noticed that there's insurance for liability, there's workman's comp. I never see insurance for health. Is that something that's
So that comes, I
outside warrant,
believe, in
your
the
warrant?
payroll warrants, right? So there's a payroll warrant, and because the employees contribute something to their health insurance coverage, their premium share comes out of that warrant, and ours also is listed on it, right? We write checks to the insurance company with what we withheld from the employees plus the town's contribution. And the payroll warrants customarily have not been part of the packet,
Okay.
because they contain information that's private to individuals who work for the town that would be poor to expose.
Okay, versus workman's comp, which doesn't involve.
It's more of a blanket.
Doesn't involve employee contributions,
Right.
but is a payroll sort of thing. But, okay,
The workers' comp, it's based on payroll,
yeah.
but it's
It's
based
okay,
on.
I understand the contribution part.
We have a whole insurance
I understand the
coverage
employee.
that covers all of that. It's like
Okay.
one big
Right.
sweeping umbrella.
Right,
That's why it's.
as I see
kind
it.
of-
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Fletch Coolidge, if you haven't met me. I just moved here recently into the Smith block. First, I want to compliment the town on about 5 things. One, I found a great church. I think all your churches are probably great, but this one contributes a lot to your community. Secondly, we found a great library with very helpful people. Then I got involved with the senior center, which I think does an outstanding job for the citizens of this town. Then I got involved with the Friends of the Town Hall, and I've volunteered at pretty near every event they've had, and I think that brings untold people into town. And last, I want to congratulate the landfill for having the best donuts in the state of Vermont. I was born here in Brandon. I'm a graduate of Brandon High School. I worked at the training school, just so you know a little about me. I worked at the Neshabie Golf Club. My father worked on a road crew here for about 20 plus years. My mother was a matron at the training school. My brother and his wife are longtime educators in this area. I have a nephew who I'm proud of that serves on your board. And I have a friend right in the front row by the name of Jan who volunteers for everything in your town. But I came here tonight hoping you could do something. The noise on Center Street is atrocious. I want to repeat that. Atrocious. So much, being an old teacher, that I believe in show and tell, I want to show you what I have so that A, I can read, and B, I can sleep at night. These are a headset that I bought from Dick's, and these are earplugs that I have to put in. There are several people in this town that do not understand what a muffler is. And all they do is drive up and down your streets, especially Center Street, making as much noise as they possibly can. When I talk to other people around the town about this, they acknowledge this and say it's an old-time problem. Well, I'm here mainly asking you to do something about it. I had a very cordial meeting with the town manager. I've been to the police station. I've called the police station. I've emailed the police chief. And I'm wondering if A, is there a noise ordinance in this town?
There's a noise ordinance, there's a noise section within the land use ordinance
And my understanding from
that I'm
talking,
aware of.
excuse me, My understanding from talking to a police officer the other day is that it only goes into effect after 10 o'clock at night. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Has the town looked into other towns that have noise ordinances like Woodstock, I'll mention just one, that goes into effect all day long and can fine up to $800?
I'm not aware that we've looked into it. The land use ordinance, which includes the
No.
noise part, would be from the planning commission, so we can ask the planning commission if they would make some further study.
Would you as a board support that?
I would, yeah. I had a noise experience at one point when I was living in a different house in Brandon, and I found the noise ordinance to be not helpful as it is currently written.
Okay, my next question in talking, when I had my meeting with Mr. Atherton, do we need more police on the force?
So that's been a topic during the budget workshops that we've had just recently in November and December, and it's something that the board's considering right now in terms of what budget we're going to recommend to the voters for town meeting.
So this could appear in a new budget.
It could appear in the very next budget.
How would an ordinary citizen like me approach this, say at the town meeting or prior to the town meeting, to make sure this gets addressed by the public?
So what you're doing right now, where you're doing it, is absolutely the right time and the right place, because we vote not from the floor in Brandon at the town meeting, but we vote by Australian ballot. All of the money stuff has to be settled at the end of January. So we'll have this meeting, we'll have one meeting the second Monday of January, and either at that meeting or at the fourth Monday of January, the board's going to have to finalize the budget that it supports. And so we welcome public input, either at the budget workshops that we've had, which I believe are now concluded, or at select board meetings.
Okay, and in that discussion, is there a need for a higher salary to attract more of these new people that are coming out? Have you considered that?
We've talked about that for a number of years. I think the chief has had a lot of experience trying to recruit, and we know that we lose officers after we've recruited them and been patient and waited for them to go through training and at the academy and then training here with another officer, and we from time to time lose them to towns or to the state police who pay a higher wage. We're aware.
So are we willing to become competitive with other towns?
That's the question.
Then no answer from the board.
It's been an
I won't
active
speak for the
discussion.
board.
Pardon?
It's been an active discussion. We brought up exactly that point in our budget talks, and so it's
So
on the
it's
table.
ongoing. You're looking at that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I would say, it's not just the hourly rate that we pay. Like, there are all kinds of considerations that a law enforcement professional in Vermont would take into consideration deciding which agency that they're going to work for.
Right.
And so the board and the town and the chief, I mean, we've made efforts in directions other than just the hourly rate, but we're aware that the hourly rate is very important.
I appreciate your answers because I am a rookie, so I'm probably going to ask some questions that you have already made known to the public. And my next one is there any possibility of establishing a constable that would control the traffic and the noise downtown? I understand at one time there was a constable in Brandon.
We have had them. The state in 2012, 13, made some changes to what constables were required to do to have law enforcement authority. And at that time or shortly after, we did not have anyone in town who desired to be a constable who was also willing to undertake that amount of training.
I read about the training and everything down at Pittsford that a constable has to go through. So if there was a quote constable available, would you attempt to fill that position?
I would not speak for the board right away. I would want to confer with the chief, and I would want to confer with the town manager, and the whole board, I think, would want to hear what they said first.
Okay, and a follow-up question to that, is there any thoughts about moving a police office back into town? Somewhere in town, have you looked at a place? I mean, to me, it seems way out of the way, up there in nobody's land. You couldn't even walk into the police station.
I think that, I believe the thinking, or part of the thinking for locating the police station where it is located, is that it is between Brandon and Forestdale villages.
I can
And this was
understand
going
it.
to allow for some responsiveness to both big neighborhoods of the town. I would say that because the town still has not paid off the police station bond, it's unlikely that anytime soon we would be looking to relocate them. We've just made some investment to finish the station to the design that originally the voters supported in terms of the garage space and the evidence storage space and so forth.
Okay. An invitation, before I get to my last few things. I'm a snowbird and I'm going to Texas here sometime later on in this month. And I offer any of you on the board that not sure about the noise down in Center Street to spend a night in my apartment 21 at Smith Block. Glad to have you there and see if you get a restful, peaceful evening of sleep, and that might help you make your decisions. My last few issues, my wife and I are walkers, and we've been all on every street in town, enjoying it, except for, there are several places, I don't know, maybe you have, is there a plan to improve the sidewalks, like a 5-year plan or something?
I don't know that there's a 5-year plan, but there are a list of streets that have been identified, and one of the things that the Budget Committee and the Select Board came to consensus on is that we're going to ask the voters for an appropriation to fund, I think we arrived at $20,000 of sidewalk improvement, and I believe Union Street has been identified as the probable first place to do that. Sidewalks are very, very expensive on a per-foot basis, and there's much less help from the state to build sidewalks than to build roads. So this will come pretty much from our property taxes. And we have not had money in the budget for sidewalks for a number of seasons now.
So is this budget going to show money for it?
It won't be showing in an operating budget, it would be showing as a standalone, do you want to tax the town $20,000 towards sidewalks? It'll be a yes or no question.
And in my strolling around town, there are numerous places where you can't walk on the sidewalk because vehicles are parked there in front of their buildings, forcing me and my wife into the road, and I would assume kids or a woman with a stroller into the road in order to continue down that street. Is there any ordinance about parking on the sidewalks?
I'll defer to the chief.
Absolutely.
Are there certain roads you're thinking of? Are there certain places you're
Yeah,
thinking of?
Church Street, for
Church
one, like
Street.
Beehive. Carver Street is atrocious. One time there was a camper sitting on the sidewalk, but they've since moved that, so that was good. But, you know, those are the two main ones I can think of that we've had trouble getting around vehicles. Then the other thing that relates to that, there's several places that maybe somebody ought to take a look at where there's bushes and trees that are hanging into the sidewalk. I can't imagine how the guy plowing it gets by them, but that ought to be trimmed and cut so people can walk on the sidewalks. So I wish that would get passed along to the appropriate people for that. Okay. I guess that's it.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
I'm
Yeah.
pleased that the chief is here.
I would just like to invite Mr. Coolidge. I'm a very accessible person. You may not think so, but I am.
Well, I don't know you, so I can't.
Anytime that you'd like to come in and sit down and discuss not that issue, but the other issues that you raised, I think we could have a rather lengthy discussion and maybe settle some of them,
Okay.
or maybe give you some insight into how.
So I didn't even know you. And I do
I'm Chris.
want to make another comment that was in the back of my mind now that I have the floor. I read with interest, and I was very happy that I called you the day before yesterday, I guess, about the noise, and there appeared an officer, a young man who said it was his first year and he loved his job. He showed up immediately, which was very, very good, okay? That part I appreciate. And I questioned him. I've been here 5 months and I had never seen a police officer. And he says they do a lot of walking around town. Well, I do too, but I've never seen one, and I would love to see one. And I'll extend an invitation. I would love to see one at some of these things that I mentioned, at the library, the senior center events, and this type of thing. I think it would be good to know the police officers.
And we do have officers that go to the library and specifically read to kids.
Okay, that's great.
There are a lot of things that
Maybe they can
police
read to
officers do
seniors.
that maybe a different time schedule as yours.
Yes.
Where they're not typically seen by more people, but any day that you have a few hours that you want to kill, we can discuss a lot of those topics.
That I come up, we can discuss those.
I'm free tomorrow afternoon.
I did email you, but I didn't.
I've received one email from you and it was a one-line statement. It was not, there was no question to it. It was continued noise in downtown Brandon.
Okay, it seems though that would generate a question. It does to me.
Not with the amount of typical emails that I get during the day where there are
Okay,
specific
I didn't
asks.
say there was a murder, but
So anytime you want to take the time to have a conversation, we can do that at either your place or my place.
well, I think I've addressed all the issues.
Well, you've addressed a lot of issues that you brought up, but some that you may not understand why things don't appear when you would like to see them.
Okay.
So I want to thank you for how you led off your conversation with the positive things, and I want to thank you for bringing the concerns to the board as well, and I wonder if you'd allow me a question
Sure.
for you. And I'm not at all trying to make this someone else's problem, but have you spoken with the landlord of the building
I
about
have.
any kind of noise
And
dampening?
he has at least put sealers on the window to help
Sealers on-
muffle some of it. I realize that some of this is probably inadequate windows that were installed in the building, but that doesn't take away the fact that when I walk out on the street to go get a pizza, I hear the same things.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, and I'll take back I'll need them tonight.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Coolidge.
Thank you.
Other public comment or items that you would like to bring to the board? Other public participation? Okay, if not, we'll move along. We do have a letter tonight to the board. It's dated today from Richard Russ of Forestdale. Dear Select Board members, I'm requesting to be appointed to the BLSG Mosquito District Board. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Richard Russ. Richard Russ. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Coolidge and second by Mr. Bailey. So Mr. Rausenberger is one of our representatives, and this would fill the other spot, which has been vacant since the death of Art Doty. Any
Do
discussion?
we know anything about Mr. Rausenberger's preference? I mean, it seems like his opinion might have something to do with this.
We do not, because this letter just came to the board today.
Do we have any understanding of Mr. Russ's background as far as his knowledge of anything mosquito? I'm not trying to be difficult, as I'm just curious about him as anybody I think we would appoint. We would typically have some sense of a background or somebody vouching.
I don't know his mosquito background. I mean, long-term resident of Brandon, he's been here longer than I've been here. Brian, you might know him,
I don't think he likes getting bit by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a call.
I mean, if certainly we could run it by Wayne, who would be working with him. I mean, that's a viable step. I don't imagine it would make any difference to wait until the first meeting in January either. So,
I mean, needless to say, I wanted to be clear on the record that I appreciate anybody's interest in serving the town. And so I'm not in any way suggesting that he's not, his letter of interest is not welcome. But I just feel like there's a little bit of due diligence in just being sure that he's the right person for the position. And it seems that enough of you know him, so maybe that's enough.
Further discussion?
I would leave it to Mr. Coolidge if he wants to rescind his motion or move forward.
I think we can move forward.
I don't think customarily we would need the okay from the other representative in this situation, like it's the board's appointment. Ready to vote? All in favor of appointing Richard Russ to the vacant position on the BLSG board, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Mr. Atherton, will you contact Mr. Russ? Thank you. Item 5 is the perpetual lease land discussion. This is not a perpetual discussion. This is a discussion regarding perpetual lease.
So if you guys remember a few years back, we had an attorney that came in here with a quitclaim deed for some property they were purchasing that had an old, I can't remember if it was a town or if it was glebe lands that we needed, that the board needed to sign off on, which they did. As next month, there's, if you look down on this, I read the statutes online, down here on B1, it says that on January 1st, 2020, fee simple title to perpetual lease land shall vest on the current leasee of record, bring clear of the interest of a municipal corporation. As far as we know, we have no lease land. So, speaking with Mr. Carroll at our attorney's office, who's the real estate guy there, he suggested that, we're fine, we don't need to do any sort of waiver to hold on to this if we wanted to retain it because we don't have any, so.
It's been so fortuitous that we have the right players in the room. So you're the delinquent tax collector. We have the town treasurer here, who's also the town clerk and has been in land record oversight for some time now. As far as we know, there is nothing of this sort in Brandon.
There's one property, and we did a quick claim a number of years ago when it first came on board, but yeah, that's all I'm aware of.
We don't receive any annual rents from anybody here.
No, and they didn't either, but it was built into their deed. I think they had some church land actually, and they just did a quick, their lawyer came up with a quick claim to just take that out of that perpetual lease that they never paid on anyway. But yeah, no.
So thank you for that insight. So it appears that the default is going to be that if we take no action, everything will be fine.
Correct.
Maybe it would be good to just decide to take no action. Pleasure of the board on this.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
You wanna-
I make a motion that we take no action.
Very good.
I'll second that motion to do nothing.
Motion by Mr. Giles and a second by Mr. Bailey to take no action. To take no action to retain ownership of some or all of the perpetual lease lands within the town. That's at the very end. We're going to take no action to retain ownership of some or all of the perpetual lease lands within the town. And therefore, because of the way the statute is written, we are going to relinquish any interest we have in whatever lease lands there may be. Further discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Item 6, approval of the grant anticipation note with Bar Harbor Bank and Trust for segment 6. Could I ask the town treasurer to introduce this?
Sure.
We have a long form.
So the project was scheduled to end obviously in November, but we know we've got some stuff trickling out into next year, including the big
In addition to the project.
Right.
Yeah.
So I called the bank and asked if they could just extend it for 6 months, and they were happy to do that. So it's just the same grant anticipation note, except lowered from 2 million to 1 million. And we are already on it. We borrowed 750,000 from it, which you're aware of, and So that will just continue on. So we actually have another 250,000 if we needed it. My recommendation would be to approve it, and then once all these projects are tied up in June, segment 6 will be, I think, completely tied up in June. We may still be having a big dig there, but I think we should be okay. It's not that big of a dig, I shouldn't call it a big dig, but it feels big from my perspective. I look out the window and it looks like a big dig.
Okay. So we have a recommendation from the town treasurer to extend or to modify the loan agreement by changing the amount from $2 million to $1 million and extending the maturity date from December 31, 2019 to June 1, 2020. Is there discussion?
What is the current interest rate on this note?
No. The interest rate didn't change, so I don't know. I didn't have the original number with me.
In number 2, it says that they want to extend the maturity date and change the interest rate.
They told me that we're not changing the interest rate.
No, this says it was modified.
Yeah, it was, yeah, this is sort of.
What we're going to do is number 5.
We've been extending it for a while. I mean, we got it, and we got it again. We've been sort of rolling it over from year to year.
Further discussion? Ready to vote, all in favor of adopting the loan modification agreement as presented?
Was it appropriate to have a question?
Yeah,
Because I think you had your
This
hand
is
up.
for the bridge?
No, this is for Route 7 plus whatever got added on to Route 7.
Segment
Like,
six.
It's a line of
Segment
credit
six.
that basically lets us pay bills and float cash.
Okay, but they said an extension of, and I'm just curious what the additional of is. I thought the major part of the project was completed with just stuff in the spring that needed to be taken care of.
Right, but 2 things. One is the bills will continue to roll in, you know? And the second thing is that we did add a pretty significant piece of work, which is the slab that's kind of under the road and under the knot road next to the town office, right at the end of Seminary.
Okay,
West
see,
Seminary Street.
that's what I'm asking.
That was an additional piece that V-Trans was pretty cooperative with allowing us to kind of slide it on so that we didn't have to do,
You don't have to pay the full amount.
yeah, it
Okay,
helps.
that
with-
was my question when you said additional work.
That's the main additional work. Is there other additional work?
For segment 6,
No, that was like the,
bridge slab.
yeah.
And as I understand it, this is mostly to keep us solvent as we spend money
Yeah, I
and get
understand, I
reimbursed.
understand that part, I'm an accountant, but when they said major additional, I wanted to know what that additional was.
Okay.
I hadn't heard anything about this.
Yeah, I
slab.
forget when we talked about it, five months ago, or something in that range. Early summer, maybe.
Okay, I'm just wondering if the rest of the town is aware of this.
Come to our next select board meeting.
Well, I understand that, but, you know,
Well, you can see where they haven't, where the road is weird out here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, we've had lots of people come in and say, why is the road weird? And we explain it to them, so.
all right. I just wasn't aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready to vote? All in favor of the loan modification agreement as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Item 7, the fiscal year 21 budget discussion. We have 3 members of the budget committee are here tonight. And I want to thank Barry Varian and Jan Coolidge and Cindy Bell and also Tony Paduta, who's not here tonight. Thank you for coming to the several budget writing workshops we've had and for the insight that you have shared with the select board and for going through the whole process with the department heads and the town manager with the fine-tooth comb. That is how we do it in Brandon. So does the budget committee have something to say tonight?
We wrote our letter for the
Your
town
letter for the town
report, and that'll get sent to, I got it written down where to send it, we just finalized it.
Okay,
Just like to make a public comment that it's a public meeting, it's open to the public, but no public ever show up to participate. So,
And I would like to add too that I was just very pleased with the process. I thought the process was great. I thought the individual department head contribution was very beneficial. A lot of insight there. So again, just the process was great, and I was very pleased to see it.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd just like to say I was on the first budget committee, as was Jan, and we're amazed how far the budget committee has come in how they handle things and present them so it's workable. It's absolutely amazing. It's wonderful that the heads of the departments spend so much time, so it's easy for us as budget people to work with it.
I would concur. How long ago was that the town reestablished the budget committee?
2014? No, 12 or
I think it was
14.
12.
12 or 14? I thought it was 12.
It's in our letter.
Okay.
That'll be in the report.
So it's been 6 or 7 budget cycles.
I think you're right, 12.
Yeah, because Robin
I
was,
looked it up.
Yeah.
I think it was the first year of Robin as the town manager.
And I would concur, and I would extend what you've said, I would extend it to Mr. Atherton as town manager also for
Yes, well,
for his
he's always
oversight and
good.
general big picture look at it. And so when we left the budget workshop, the most recent one, Mr. Atherton was able to do some work the following day, which he sent out. You all received the proposed changes. So I think we're getting closer to a budget that will meet the priorities that the town has for services and meet the needs of the residents to have a stable tax bill. So I want to thank you for the extra work you did even after the budget workshop series was concluded. And the board, we're early enough that there's not going to be any need to adopt a budget tonight, but in January, probably at the first regular meeting or the second regular meeting, I think we'll be in a very good position with all the information we need to be able to recommend a budget to the voters for the town's
So are we
operating
gonna
needs.
meet again? The budget
I
committee?
don't know, we can talk about it right now.
Well,
This is a good thing to have in the discussion.
Before we
Yeah.
do that, there was kind of some kudos being thrown around, and there's one more name that should be mentioned in there. Clearly, in the last so many years, the addition of having Jackie, town bookkeeper, in there with her computer and being able to pump any change or discussion in there and tell us what the numbers are, has made a huge difference in the last 3 years, and she should be recognized for that.
agree.
So what do you think? Do you want to get together once more with the budget committee? Do you want to consider, the budget at the next meeting as a select board? What do you want to do? Where do you see the most value? Yeah.
I think with what has happened that Mr. Atherton has come up with, I think we need probably one more meeting to go through the changes that he's found and proposed.
Okay.
That's my personal,
The budget committee with the select board?
Correct.
Yeah.
So
I would
the board doesn't meet until the 13th in January, so
Yeah.
we have
Well, you want to try like the first Monday instead?
next week.
Is that where you're going?
Does the budget committee like Tuesday? I don't care.
Monday, Tuesday? Matter to you?
I don't know that it doesn't matter to me, but
What date?
What if we got together with the budget committee on Monday, January 6th?
I'll have to try to switch shifts.
Or we do
Or
it at
Tuesday.
7 p.m.?
Do we do it at 7 p.m.? You can't do the date.
we used to meet on Tuesdays, and that's better for Jan.
Tuesday better?
Yeah, because I got an earlier shift
What
for
did Tuesday?
Tuesday,
Tuesday to 7?
just in case.
So that would be the 7th.
Tuesday to 7?
Tuesday the 7th?
Still at 7, Mr. Giles? Is that still better for you?
Yeah, that's great, if we can.
Is that cool? Tuesday, January 7th, 7 p.m., Select Board Budget Committee Workshop. We plan on it for here unless there's something else going on here. I don't think that it will need to be, at the fine level that the previous
No, but
workshops have been, but it will be good to have kind of
I think it would be nice to know what we've come up with as a final figure.
Yep. And then that would put us in shape to probably adopt the budget on the 13th, which would be good. Great, okay, so if that's consensus, we'll do that. Thank you. Anything else on the budget? Anybody want to offer anything at this time? Okay. Item 7A, the Green Fleet. The Admiral of the Green Fleet is Mr. Gallagher.
TV show. Yes, I'm just bringing this up again because I'd like to see us pass a green fleet policy. I had a little bit of a chance to talk with Dave between then and now, and it seemed appropriate to bring it up again. Is there any new news from your perspective?
No, I think if they're, willing to help us see what we can achieve, that'd be great.
Great. Well, then if there's no other questions, I make a motion that we accept the green fleet policy as we saw last week in our packet, and I have here again today.
So all we decided to change was just the name of the town.
Right.
But what we saw and discussed last week, we're gonna adopt.
The same, yes.
The same, yeah. So motion by Mr. Giles to adopt the green fleet policy, and a second by Mr. Bailey, as it was discussed and presented last meeting. Any discussion? We had a good discussion last time. Ready to vote? All in favor of adoption of the green fleet policy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
Any okay, one no. Any abstentions? So that's 3-1-0. Item 8, the 2 warrants. Is there a motion on the first warrant?
Yeah, I'll make a motion on the first one. Dated December 23rd, 2019, $142,171.68.
Motion by Mr. Coolidge.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Giles. Any questions on any of the invoices appearing in this warrant? Nothing from the board. All in favor of approval of the warrant as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Item B, the Route 7 construction warrant dated today.
I'll make the motion that we approve the warrant for $184,000, $289.76.
Motion by Mr. Giles.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Coolidge. Any discussion?
I'm interested to know if Dave's had a chance to look at the invoices and if they look like they were made.
Yes, I have, they're in order.
Great.
Very good. Ready to vote? All in favor of the segment 6, Route 7 construction warrant, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay, so at this time, the board will recess, and then we will reconvene for those 2 executive sessions we talked about. And I wish everybody a happy holiday season and a happy new year.
Stays really hot.